Yo guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be seeing one of my friends who's recently gotten into property, and I'm basically going to be asking him everything that you guys would like to know about how he got into property, why he did it, the mistakes he's made so far, and basically anything else that can help anyone out there who's like to get into property, who's thinking of getting into property but they don't have the knowledge. Yo guys, so we're now at the house. This is the house, it's been sold, and I'm going to see Rhys now. He's just coming out to get me. Yo, what's up, bro? Long time no see. How are you?
Decent.
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good too. Yeah. Yes, I'm here with Rhys now. We're going to speak about the house. This is the house from outside, and he's going to just take us through the numbers, how much he bought the house for. He's actually sold it now, as you can see from that sign. So he's going to tell us a bit about that as well, how much he's planning to take home from it. And yeah, everything that comes with it, the refurb costs, how much he had to pay for labor. And yeah, so how much was the house and how long ago was it that you got it?
So purchase price of the house is 170. After stamp duty, legal fees, auction fees, finance fees, and everything inclusive, takes us probably to about 190.
Okay.
Refurb costs were 40,000. So all in purchase price and refurb, it takes us to 230.
Yeah.
And then we sold it for 251.
Okay, 251. How long ago was that?
Sold it when? So we put it on the market about 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then literally, as soon as you put it up, we got 3 offers in like the first 3-4 days.
Oh shit.
So we just went with the highest offer.
And what was that feeling like when you finally sold it?
It's overwhelming, to be fair. It's just like it's kind of like a relief, because for so long you're putting in so much into one thing, like cash in, day on day. And finally, everything's kind of like come to fruition.
Yeah. Really nice house.
Thank you.
So guys, as you can see, this is the sitting room, right?
Yeah, living room.
Okay, the living room. So as you can see, everything's been done, everything's been refurbed. New floors, new light switches, new door, ceiling, everything's looking nice. If we come down here, we can go straight to the kitchen. And as you can see, this kitchen is looking very expensive, bro. I can't lie. How much did this set you back?
Materials, so just the kitchen itself, is 3.5.
Okay.
If you include the price of labor, then 4.5.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a bit, but I think the first question everyone wants to know is why property? Why property? Why Leicester? I mean, we both went to uni in Leicester, so I think I know a bit about that. Yeah. But why property? Why Leicester? And why this particular house?
Cool, so property, because if you just look at the stats and stuff, the majority of wealthy people, they tend to park their capital and whatnot in real estate. So I just had the thought of, if I can get in early and start making things happen in property early, then by the time I reach that age, I'll be well off. So that's why I chose property. Secondly, why Leicester? Because literally, as you said, we went to uni here. I know the area quite well, and it was a decision of Leicester or London. London property prices are through the roof, so it just made more sense to start in Leicester. Yeah, definitely. And I think another thing, because when people say they want to buy property in Leicester, obviously there are 2 universities in Leicester. Definitely one thing that could have been going through your mind when you wanted to buy is student account. Yeah. Did that come to your mind? Definitely. That's literally why I bought this house. It's close to the Montfort University. Yeah. And my original plan was to essentially turn into a student HMO. Okay. But because I was inexperienced, I didn't really know the rules and regulations in place, I essentially thought it would be easier to do it than it actually is. Yeah. And to go through that process, I would have to basically apply to the council for planning. Yeah. And they put like it's called Article 4, it's like a blanket ban in the area to specifically stop the use of traditional family homes being used as student homes. Because from a landlord perspective, the reason why you want to do it is you get to maximize your rent. Like, let's say this house, for example, I could rent it out probably now because of the finish for 1,100 as a standard 3-bed family house.
Yeah.
But if I were to turn it into a student 4-bed HMO, the reason why I could do it, there's 3 bedrooms upstairs. One of these living rooms I could turn into a 4th bedroom. I could charge probably about £500 per month for each room. That's £2,000 for the same house that would net me 1,100. So that's why a lot of landlords go down the HMO route. So the council saw that a lot of family homes were being turned into student homes, HMOs and whatnot. And that's why they implemented it.
I didn't even know that. You see, we learn something every day. So yeah, definitely what you're saying about the traditional wealth and, you know, people always putting, not people, but the wealthy people going into real estate. Another person would say maybe the stock market, but I think the issue with the stock market is, you know, it's more about safeguarding your wealth.
Exactly.
That's something people need to realize, that the stock market is good, but unless you're a day trader, a swing trader, depending on how much capital you have, in the short term, building that amount of wealth may not be feasible using the stock market. The only issue with real estate as well is that the pros can be, obviously you need a lot of capital. You need a lot of capital, and you also need to know what you're doing. So that leads to my next question. Having such little experience with real estate, you know I spoke to you earlier, you told me before that you bought this house just off the, you know, you don't really think too much about it. What helped you make that big decision without having that fear in mind that you know you're not too sure what you're getting yourself into, but you know it's a big opportunity?
To be fair, property is one of the safest things that you could put your money in. And at the end of the day, I know a lot of people that make more money than me that just waste a lot of money on random stuff. So I thought, look, if I try something and it fails, the worst thing that can happen is that I'll lose a bit of money, but I'll still gain experience anyway. But 9 times out of 10, if you do your research and your due diligence before, and you're somewhat of half decent, what's the word? Like you're just quite smart, then you're not really gonna mess up that badly. So that was my thought process.
This is the kitchen. So how was it before? Was it like, because that's a strange place for there to be a toilet.
Yeah, no, but it's actually quite common in the Midlands to have bathrooms and toilets past the kitchen.
Okay.
And because there is a main bathroom upstairs, like I didn't really gain anything by knocking it out, because it would have cost more, and it wouldn't necessarily benefit the end value. Whereas by keeping this as a shower room and obviously the upstairs main bathroom, when it comes to sell now, we marketed it as a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And that obviously helps it outperform the other houses on the street.
Okay, so I know you got this property as an auction. Why an auction, and how did you find it? Like, did you go through any websites? Did you speak to someone? Like, how did that come about?
I didn't actually intend to get an auction.
Okay.
So there's something called Rightmove, and it's like the most popular property listing website. Like all estate agents and anyone selling a house, 9 times out of 10 will have their property listed on Rightmove, and even auctioneers as well. So I was scrolling on Rightmove, I put in the criteria that I wanted: Leicester, 3-bedroom, blah blah blah, and then I came across this house. Clicked on it, saw in the description that it was sold by a public method of auction, and then I knew what auctions were, but I wasn't too familiar with how it worked and whatever. So I called the agent, like the link that I had in the description. They just walked me through it, came to a viewing, and the person that held the viewing just told me about the auction and what I had to do. I was out of the house.
And with the market being so competitive and like you finding this auction, was it hard to eventually secure this house, or was it something that, you know, you had to, it was quite easy and you were a bit skeptical as to how easy it was?
A mixture of both. So I went in with the intention of my max bid is going to be 170. The bidding started at about 150, someone bid it, it went up to 155, then 160, then 165. And then I was like, right, maybe I actually might not get this house. So then when the next bid option was 170, I clicked it, expecting to get outbidded. Then the auctioneer was just like, he was trying to egg it on, saying, has anyone got 175? Okay, has anyone got 173, 172? Then like as they got closer to 170, I was actually like, right, like, I'm actually going to get this house. That's how I got it. So it wasn't that competitive. It is a bit more competitive now because we're entering a buyer's market. But back then it was still semi-seller's market.
You bought this house for 170,000. Most people buying a house of that value would probably go over a mortgage, but you decided to go over a bridge. Do you want to explain what that is and why?
Yeah, so very simply, a bridge is essentially a short-term mortgage.
Okay.
And what it does is that it bridges the gap that you need to purchase a property. So I bought it for 170. I didn't have 170. It works similar to a mortgage whereby you need a 25% deposit.
Okay.
But the only difference with a bridge is that you don't typically want to keep it for longer than 12 months, and it's very, very expensive.
I'm guessing.
And the reason why you use a bridge is because you don't intend to keep a property for that long, or you plan to exit onto, let's say, like a mortgage or some other form of finance. And I had the intention of either refinancing this house or flipping it. And if I wanted to buy with a mortgage, I could. But because of the strategy that I was using, it would essentially be mortgage fraud if I tried to buy with a mortgage. And that's essentially why bridging exists, for strategies like this where you're buying and selling houses, where you're in and out. Something exactly.
That makes sense. And you see, this is why I say how important this type of plan. You see, Rhys had a plan, a long-term plan. He knew what he wanted to do with the house. He knew what was intended. And that's why he was able to make that decision to get a bridge instead of a mortgage. Now, Rhys, I know you're a very organised person. I know you have structure. I know you definitely had a time frame to complete this house by. What was that time frame, and did you eventually meet that time frame?
So yeah, with auctions, another thing is that there's a hard and fast time frame that you do have to complete in. With this auction, it was, I think it was 31 days. So that's to sort out your finance, get it approved, and to exchange on the contracts. And in terms of the property loans, that's very, very fast. Because even now, selling this house is going to take me probably 2+ months just to complete
the paperwork and
everything. Exactly. So with that time frame, I did manage to complete in that time frame because of things outside of my control. Like trying to open a business bank account was taking ages. What else took long? The lenders were just going back and forth. Then the vendor solicitors were just taking the piss. So it went over by about, I would say, like 3 weeks. And because of that, we incurred late fees.
But, we're going to touch on that later on, and the unexpected costs that came about. But in terms of the time it took you the time that you planned to finish this house in terms of refurbishment and the time it actually took you, how long was that?
So the time, I didn't have any expectations in terms of how long it would take. I just had in my mind maybe like 4 or 5 months. We did it in 3. At first, the builder was saying 8 weeks, which is 2 months, but for full back to brick refurb. It was a bit optimistic, so we ended up doing it in about 12, which is still quite fast.
So we've just touched on you incurring late fees. That was my next question. What other unexpected costs came with this house that the average person wanting to go into property would not think of, that you had to deal with? So with this being my first house, really and truly I shouldn't have to pay stamp duty, but because there were tenants in the house, it was classified as an investment property. And because of that, I had to pay stamp duty. So that was 5,000 that I didn't account for. The late fee was 1,000 that I didn't account for. Other than that, all other fees were expected. Like auction fees were about 5 grand, but
you know that from the legal pack that they give you. Finance costs were about 1% per month, which works about £1,000 a month, and that works to, by the time I sold, just under 10 grand. Once you offset the rent payments that I was receiving, so it's around 8,000.
I remember there was a time you were ordering a skip to the house almost every other week. Is that something you planned for, and how much is that?
Yes and no. So I did account for skips, but like just the cost of one. Ended up using probably like 9 or maybe even 10.
For those that don't know how much a skip costs, do you want to tell them like how much it is?
So just to hire a skip itself, it depends on the size, like anywhere from around £100 to like 200. But once you add the permit as well, per skip will cost around 280 to 350 depending.
And when you're doing a refurb, you definitely need at least, well, depending on the size of the house, you will need a few skips to come and go. Now, Rhys, you're 22, you're new to property, the builders know you're young, you've not got much experience with real estate or property as a whole. Most people will try and take advantage of those factors and charge you higher prices. Did you see yourself having to constantly negotiate with the builders?
At the start, yes. But because I got the builders through a referral of a good friend, they didn't overly try and take the piss. And once, like, I just had to speak to them on a level and just show them, like, yeah, cool, it's my first one, like, I'm not making mad peas, like, just work with me on the price, and then if we can build something now, then we can keep on going forward long term. So then, yeah, he dropped the price of the quote by about like 5 grand.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
see, that's the lesson out there. It's not really what you know, but who you know. Rhys used his connects, got someone who helped him, someone, a good friend of his, introduced him to these builders, and you know, they took care of Rhys and helped him get the lowest price as possible. Now we're on to the last few questions. One of the last questions I wanted to ask you, and I think most people would like to know, is what mistakes have you made so far these past few months when it comes to this particular house, dealing with the house, whether it be just silly mistakes or big mistakes, and what have you learned from them?
Mistakes, I've made a few. I made a few mistakes. Like when it came to the snagging, because I'd fully paid the builders before the snagging was fully done, trying to get them to pattern everything to a high standard that I wanted was a lot more difficult than it should have been, and that made things drag out a little bit longer. So that's one. Another thing is not being clear with what I wanted them to do with the refurb. Because I was inexperienced and I was essentially trying to lean on their experience, I was giving them a lot more leeway to do what they wanted to do, as opposed to having a set
principle that you
exactly, they call it a spec sheet. As opposed to just composing this spec sheet and giving it to them so they know exactly what to do with each room, what level of finish I want.
Standards that you
exactly. So those are the two main mistakes. Other than that is that not fully accounting for the refurb costs at the start, not having a contingency and things like that. But that just all comes with experience.
Definitely. And you see, one benefit of what Rhys did of just, you know, jumping into the deep end, buying the property, is that you learn with experience. You're never going to be fully ready to do something. It's just about taking the opportunity when it presents itself and learning from whatever comes with it. The bottom line is you tried your best, you did what you had to do, and you're definitely going to learn something as opposed to not trying at all. So the last question we want to ask you, Rhys, is what's next for you in the property market? I know you sold this place. I know you're probably going to let it go in a couple of months. Why did you decide to just sell it off? Why not refinance it?
Reason being, I'll have a lot more capital to play with. So if I refinance this, I would have been able to pull out around 40 to 50 grand. Selling it, it's over 100 that they will end up having. So yeah, that was my line of thinking when it came to the exit strategy. And with that amount of capital, I'll be able to buy even more than one project at once. So just further compound on my experience and just what I'm doing in property. which will further my growth.
That's good. So that's the important thing as well. What Rhys did is so smart because, you know, he's jumped on the property ladder at such a young age quickly. He's learnt so much. Took him less than a year to get to build such an amazing achievement. And now he's just gonna, you know, that snowball effect is gonna take place, and he's gonna keep compounding and learning from that. Now, as I said outside, you know, we graduated about 10 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're here now. Both achieved so much since then.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to someone who's about to graduate or who has graduated and, you know, they're unsure what to do?
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they want to do something, but, you know, maybe it's fear that's holding them back. Maybe it's their circumstances. Like, you took such a big leap of faith and you made such a big decision, and it's brought you here where you've networked with so many people and you've learned so much. What would you say to someone out there who's inspired by this and wants to, you know, follow in your footsteps, per se?
The main thing is just to try things. You're never really going to find your purpose or know what to do unless you go out there, try something and see whether it is for you or it isn't. So that's the main thing, trying things, taking risks as well, because right now we're all mad young and you're never really going to have this much time, if you're not already doing something, to make mistakes and go again, try different things and go again, because you might have responsibilities, but that's only going to increase as you grow. So just take the risks now, mess up now, make mistakes now, learn from it, try different things, and that's eventually how you find what you want to do.
Yeah, that is what Rhys said is very important, especially about, that's why I keep telling my friends is like, we're very young right now. I know some people, you may not feel like you're young, you may see other people on social media doing certain things and you feel like you're behind, but the bottom line is every day you get older. So right now is the youngest you'll ever be. You don't have as much responsibilities as you have now that you'll have in a few weeks, a few months, a few years from now. Most people our age don't have any dependents, you know. We don't have people who are depending on us. We don't have children, you know, people might still be living at home, living with their parents. So as many risks as we can take now, just try and take them, try out different things. Like, it could be the most random things, but just try it. And don't let the fear of other people judging you hold you back from doing what you actually want to do. Alright, so that sums up our video, Rhys. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, bro. And I wish you more success with your properties in the future. Definitely we'll work together in the future. And yeah, keep doing your thing. I'm proud of you, bro. And yeah, I'll see you in the future, bro. See you in the future.